Am I the a-hole for ruining my brother's proposal and refusing to clear his name until he gives me half the money for my wedding? I, 35 male, admit to being a spiteful person when pushed, but I want to know if I'm truly the a-hole when I gave multiple and explicit warnings as to deter my vengeance. I have a younger brother, Todd, 29 male, who had a complicated birth and had to stay a month in the ICU. And because of that, my parents have always doted on him and almost denied him nothing, even if it was to the detriment of my sister Abby, 32 female, and I. My brother drinks in on the attention and has on more than one occasion made himself the center of attention at either my sister's, or a cousin's special event. Because of this, Abby and I have a strained relationship with Todd and our parents. Unfortunately, Todd met and fell in love with Lucy, 24 female, who announced her own pregnancy at the baby shower my mom held for Abby. When I proposed to my wife Michelle, 30 female, I just wanted to elope, but she really wanted her family to be there, so I invited my family out of obligation. While out, my best man Jim, 35 male, noticed a receipt from a jewelry store slipped out of Todd's pocket. Jim confronted Todd about this, which led to an argument. Jim told me everything, and I told Todd that he was no longer going to be a groomsman because I knew he was going to propose at my wedding. Todd cried to our parents, which led to a blowout. In my parents' eyes, since Todd never admitted that he was going to propose to Lucy at my wedding, I was unfairly judging him. I refused and brought up Todd's past behavior. My parents couldn't refute this and got Todd to agree to not try anything at my wedding. This wasn't enough to convince me to let him be a groomsman, but I warned him that if, as a guest, he'd try anything, I would make him regret it. Fast forward to the wedding, and surprise, surprise, Todd walked over to Lucy and proposed to her during Michelle's father-daughter dance, and did it in a way so that everyone would notice. Cue my revenge. Jim and I had hired a woman to pretend to be Todd's side piece who cornered Todd and Lucy, and claimed that she was pregnant with his baby. Todd denied this, but when she called his phone, as I gave his number and messed with Todd's phone to incriminate him, it didn't look good. Lucy threw the ring back at Todd and left in tears. When Todd saw the smile on my face, he knew that it was me, and I didn't respond to a single call/text from him or my parents until after the honeymoon. Lucy has thrown Todd's stuff out and has been denying access to their kid. Todd is furious and is demanding that I clear his name. I sent him a text saying that I had no idea what he was talking about, as well as a screenshot of a bill for the wedding, and gave a vague message demanding reimbursement for half of the wedding costs. Michelle knew the whole time what I was planning and gave me the green light after Todd ruined her moment with her dad, so I felt pretty good. But now even Abby thinks I went too far. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add because I keep seeing this and/or people were asking questions. 1. I warned Todd multiple times that if he proposed at my wedding, I would make him regret it. 2. In this scenario, Abby is my sister and Lucy is Todd's girlfriend. 3. During the father-daughter dance, there was a spotlight on Michelle and her dad with a camera on them that was recording live on a large screen for everyone to see. Todd pulled Lucy out and knelt down right in the eye line of the camera, and that's how everyone saw. 4. In specific situations, I can see an argument of Lucy being innocent, but she's not innocent overall. As stated previously, Lucy announced her own pregnancy at Abby's baby shower, so she likes to steal the attention too. Now for the comments. You're the a-hole and Todd is also an a-hole. Lucy and their kid are innocent. This is a cruel revenge. You could have done something that only hurts Todd. I agree with Abby that you went too far. What if Lucy was crazy and unalived Todd and herself and her baby? This stuff happens on the news very often. I'll give you their child, but Lucy is just as much an attention hog as Todd. She made Abby's baby shower all about her when she announced her own pregnancy. You could have done something less harmful but have the same effect on him, like hiring a bunch of granny strippers to show up at their wedding or something like that. I seriously doubt that that would have the same effect as what I did. Everyone sucks here. I really wanted to say not the a-hole, but this is a bit much, only because there's a kid involved and your brother isn't able to see it. It seems inevitable that at some point, you're going to have to come clean to help repair that relationship, and then Todd is going to seem like a total victim. And he and Lucy will be vindicated to keep acting entitled, which really sucks. I wonder if they're adult enough to sit down and have a proper discussion where everyone can apologize. Our parents have spent too many years making excuses for Todd for him to ever give a genuine apology. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying no to be a bridesmaid to my childhood best friend for being engaged to my ex? So Jane, 29, female, and I, 29, female, have known each other since we were in middle and high school together. She went to college in California while I went to college in Georgia. During college, Jane and I visited each other. She's younger than me, so I flew to LA for her 21st birthday and we always met up when we were home, etc. My junior year, I met Kyle, senior at the time. After he graduated, he moved to New York City for a job. While I was not intending on staying on the East Coast, I ended up also moving to New York City, partially to be with him. Then Kyle decided he wants a change of pace and wants to move to LA. We talked a lot about it. I asked if he could wait 6 months and move together since I just got promoted. He found a job and he moved to LA in May of that year instead of waiting. It's worth noting that Jane had moved to LA January of that year. I'm not sure at what point Jane and Kyle got together. They were already familiar with each other because of all the times Jane had visited and the times when I brought Kyle home. Kyle and I started fighting a lot more. I was stressed and frustrated. And that August, we broke up. Kyle and I kept talking and he decided he didn't like LA and was going to move back to New York City. Then COVID hits, and I find out that they may be together through friends. I asked Jane about it, and she said they were just hanging out a lot because he was still new and didn't have a lot of friends. Jane was constantly posting stories on Instagram and they looked too close to be just friends. So I didn't believe her. She kept saying they're just friends, and I unfollowed both of them on Instagram and neither of them said anything. Jane and I haven't really talked since everything happened. And now they're engaged. Jane asked me to be a bridesmaid and I said no. I felt it would be a little uncomfortable for me. I felt Kyle had been stringing me along while he was in LA and I feel awkward that they weren't honest about it from the beginning. But Jane is saying I can bring my current boyfriend as my +1 and Kyle agreed with her. Now she and my sister both think I'm overreacting and should just say yes. So am I the a-hole for saying no? Not the a-hole. It really sounds like he may have cheated on you with your best friend. At the very least, they got together soon after you two broke up. They kept the relationship from you and lied about it. This isn't an episode of Friends where everything can be hunky-dory. I don't know too many people that would be comfortable in this situation outside of a sitcom or rom-com movie. Yep, they want Opie there so they can pretend they did nothing wrong to everyone else. Not the a-hole. I think you are very correct. And her having to explain why you weren't there might make them uncomfortable, even for a little bit. Not the a-hole. Not only is it weird they both want you there after all that's happened, but to be a bridesmaid on top of it as well? If she is a bridesmaid, it means she's validated their relationship and forgiven them. They may not be fully conscious of it, but it might be a part of their reasoning. Some no harm, no foul mental gymnastics. Yep, it's all about the optics. They will likely pressure Opie more because she's saying no, and if she isn't there, they can't pretend she's okay with it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for uninviting my dad to my wedding because he took back the money he promised? I want to be clear that this is not about money. I know no one owes us money, but he promised and it is about his reasoning. My fiancé and I are currently planning a wedding, and my mom got herself uninvited as we found out she had made some jokes behind our back about my fiancé's appearance/style, and saying she was never going to be anything more than a stay-at-home mom. I was furious and uninvited her. A couple of people told me I was being an a-hole as it was a one-time thing. She said not thinking it would get back to us. Also, she was tipsy, maybe a bit drunk. My dad, they aren't married, recently found out she wasn't going to be there and confronted me. He said what she said wasn't nice, but realistically, people talk crap and gossip, and I should give her the chance to apologize and move on. I explained that I can't let someone who feels that way come to our wedding, and he said I was being ridiculous. He said he was no longer going to pay for our wedding if I was going to treat my mom like that. I decided to uninvite him too, as I feel he's no longer a supportive person. My fiancé was privy to this conversation and is obviously hurt. She doesn't want him there either, so I feel the need to support her. But now my dad and his wife are telling everyone how we feel entitled to their money and how arrogant we are for uninviting everyone who disagrees with us. I feel slightly weird about it because obviously he doesn't have to pay for our wedding. Now for the top comments. I do think yours is a bit of an extreme reaction and definitely about the money. But I also have to wonder if your mom hasn't tried to apologize in between her crap talking and you finding that out. Part of me believes that if she really wanted to make it up and actually felt guilty, she would have already done that. So, Everyone sucks here, I guess. She apologized, but it was a crappy apology. She was like, I shouldn't have said that, so sorry. But don't be a baby because we all know she makes fun of me as well. Does she? Yes, to be honest. But at least she has the sense not to do it in a crowd where it is going to get back to my mom. Newsflash, if your mom knows, it's getting back to her. You're the a-hole for taking such extreme action every time a guest does anything remotely wrong surrounding your wedding. Yes, it's your wedding, and you can invite and disinvite whoever you want. And yes, standing up for your fiancé is the right thing to do. However, at least from the way you wrote this, it seems you don't have any kind of conversations with people before deciding they're out. And not just any person, but your mother and father. You're like the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. You just stand there and go, no more wedding for you. Next. It's quite immature. Your mother shouldn't have spoken ill about your fiancé. But is she willing to apologize? Is she remorseful? Edit, mother-in-law did apologize. Unless she has a history of being mean to you / your fiancé, I think making her miss her child's wedding for a one-off comment is extreme. Edit, it turns out it's the other way around, and the fiancé has a history of talking crap about mother-in-law behind her back. LMAO. Your father shouldn't have held money over your head. But the funny thing is that he is doing for your mother the same thing you're doing for your fiancé, even though they aren't married. He is reacting extremely to you wronging her and going nuclear with no more wedding money for you. You and your fiancé sound very immature. But while standing up for her is right, you have to be careful to analyze if this isn't her subtly isolating you from your family. Edit, I'm now more sure than ever that fiancé is using this wedding for a power move at isolating OP from his parents. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling my fiancé a trigger happy loon and threatening to cancel our wedding? Me, 27 male, and my fiancé Lizzie, 27 female, are finally getting to planning our wedding after putting it off for an entire year. And I'm not kidding when I say this. It has been a nightmare. Lizzie has gone full-on bridezilla. I get that wedding planning is hard as I'm literally doing it, but she has legitimately gone off the freaking rails. She's been snapping at family members, threatening to uninvite them at every turn. The other day, my parents called me and told me that Lizzie had uninvited them from the wedding. And of course, I was freaking angry. She didn't even have the gall to tell me herself. Was she just thinking I wouldn't find out? Oh, and you want to know why she uninvited them? They didn't like the flowers she picked. And I say she picked, because she didn't tell me about that either. I confronted her yesterday asking her why she tried to uninvite my parents, and we got into a huge argument over it, with her yelling at me asking why I was still supporting my parents after they showed such disrespect towards her. I asked her why the hell she has been making all of these decisions without even consulting me first, and she said that it was her wedding, so she should be able to make all the decisions. We have never had a fight like this before. I was at my wit's end, especially after she called me a controlling piece of crap. So I snapped and called her a trigger happy loon. And if she wanted a wedding all about her, she could marry herself, because I was so freaking done. She stormed out of the house, insulting me with every step. She got in the car and drove to her parents' house, and she's been there since the fight. I called my sister sobbing and told her what had happened. She agrees that Lizzie was way out of line, but that we should try reconciling. Lizzie refuses to speak to me until she gets an apology. But I don't think I'm in the wrong. It's my wedding too. But she acts like I'm just a decorative piece of her special day. But I'm really starting to feel horrible. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I know a running joke on Reddit is instantly giving the advice you should break up. But if this were me, I'd be thankful this side of her was exposed before we said I do. And I'd run very far away from this pile of red flags in the shape of a human woman. Exactly. Not the a-hole. You should thank the heavens you got to see the side of her before the wedding. Trust me, it'll only get worse. Think about major life events and how she'll act if she's acting like this during your wedding. She is a nightmare and will continue to be a nightmare. Think about how you want the rest of your life to play out and make the best decision for yourself. You've received a blessing in the shape of a bridezilla. This, buddy, in real life, every bride I've ever known who has gone bridezilla has made the entire marriage about them. Their wants, their desires, their dreams. You'll be but a player in her narcissistic bubble. A wedding is about both of you and should reflect both of you. People shouldn't be uninvited unless it's for some pretty significant reasons like abuse. not just because they have a difference of opinion from the bride. She disrespected you and your entire family by uninviting your parents. Over flowers. Over flowers you didn't get to have an opinion on. Trust me when I say that she is showing who she truly is. She has a lot of growing up to do and needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around her before a wedding should even be discussed. Honestly, put the brakes on the wedding. Postpone it while you figure out what you want, and insist on real couples counseling from a real marriage and family therapist before setting a new date to ensure the big glaring issues are resolved before committing one more date to someone dropping with selfishness. I fully agree. We internet strangers cannot tell you, OP, if your relationship is worth saving. But for sure you need to put the wedding planning on pause until things cool down. The question is, why is your fiancé behaving this way? Blaming the bridezilla is easy, but it'd be useful for you to understand where her behavior comes from. Is she afraid? And being 100% in control is the coping strategy she opted for. Does she feel social pressure to have the perfect wedding and she's actually overwhelmed? Or is she simply a witch and you now only found out? Only you can tell, OP. Not the a-hole. Run. I asked her why the hell she has been making all of these decisions without even consulting me first. She said that it was her wedding, so she should be able to make all the decisions. Run far, far away. Stop threatening to cancel the wedding, and just cancel it. Save yourself the divorce, and ramification of potentially having children with this person. Lol, if it's her wedding and only hers, who is she marrying?